Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the LOCUS Golden Hour podcast. My name is Kristina.
And I'm Lina.
So, this podcast is about sharing stories, advice, tips, and all things surrounding university and student life. So, today we'll be chatting about group work. Whether you love it or hate it, you'll encounter it at university in some way. I guess we could start off with an icebreaker. Just a question about group work. Lina, do you like group work?
The classic group. I do enjoy it. I think when you're in a good group, it's always fun. Like it's nice to just, I guess, bounce ideas off of each other, and like, the more minds put together, it's like more power. But I've also had not so great experiences. So I would say it's like it's like, yeah, I like it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Um, the thing about my program though is there's so much group work. Like every semester, almost every class, I have several group projects. So whether I like it or not, I'm going to have to deal with that. And I'm sure other students kind of can relate if they have a lot of group work. But yeah, I think obviously when you go out into the real world, you're going to have to be working with others. So I guess it makes sense that they make us do this in school.
Yeah.
And they make you work with people you might not know. So it does also, again, make a lot of sense. But yeah, that was a long answer for this short question. What about you, Kristina?
No, I agree. I'm the same way. Like, it can be good and it can be bad. Like, honestly, sometimes you just work better with some people and sometimes you just don't work as well with some people. That's just how group dynamics tend to work. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
But, I like it when it's a good group, and I also don't like it if it's a group that doesn't work well together. Like, I find myself usually being the person who's facilitating meetings and stuff, or like, hey guys, make sure you have this done by this date. But then I don't
Yeah.
want to feel like I'm nagging.
Yeah.
But I think I would rather be that person than being the person that doesn't pull their weight.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better
But
to be proactive for sure.
yeah. But yeah, same with me with my degree. A lot of it is group work. Like, so I've written so many group contracts, had so many meetings and stuff, but I may not like it that much, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. In terms of, I guess, this whole podcast is about how to, I guess, succeed in one, or like how to manage being in a group. So what would you say are some of your tips or like things you do right at the get-go when you have group work?
I think, like I mentioned, I've written a lot of group contracts. I've been taking a lot of the leadership courses. So, right in first year, part of the projects in some of the leadership classes is making a group contract. So, you talk about what you want done and when you want it done. You talk about expectations for each person. Like, what do you do if someone doesn't pull their weight or if they don't show up to meetings? Like, they get a warning, or like eventually you go to the prof and you talk about it. Like, you outline everything just in case something does happen. So it keeps there from being like hard feelings or bad blood. Like, if something happens, you know how to deal with it. So
Mm-hmm.
group contracts help a lot. Also, because usually you put the due date to finish stuff before the actual due date of the project. So it's not like the night before one person of the whole group is like banging out the whole thing. So group contracts are so good. And there's like, I'm sure you can find a bunch of templates out there if you don't know how to write one.
That's so great. I think I've only had like one group contract in like first year, but that's because like they made us do it. Um, I'd say like establishing expectations is something definitely that I do a lot with my groups. But I definitely see the value in writing group contracts, and I think that's really great. And I should probably do that more because it really just sets the tone for everything. And if everyone's on the same page, you don't have any misunderstandings. And like you said, Chris, no hard feelings if something happens because people know what to expect. And if they don't pull their weight, then they know what they're in for, right?
It divides things a lot easier too. Like, depending on what the project is, this person's supposed to do this person's supposed to do this section, rather than you all just like dive into like a paper together or something like that.
Mhm.
So it splits things up well, I think.
When you start like in the planning process, you're saying like diving into everything, do you typically like divide the work in terms of like, okay, this person's going to do this section, this person's going to do this section?
Yes. Like in the past group work things I've done, there was like a bunch of questions that we had to answer.
Mhm.
So we just divided up the questions and then had one person be the like obviously you look over your own work, but then we had one person to make sure everything it was cohesive and like they
Mhm.
edited it and then one person handed it. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I know like sometimes there can be assignments where it's like, oh, everyone has to do it at the same time, you do it together. I've had like a few projects like that. So like you have to hop on a Zoom meeting and then you have to like do it all at the same time. Or like obviously it's nice when you get to like divide up the work and then everyone like has to get it done by the due date. But I think, yeah, having your own role and everyone knows like this is what I'm responsible for and this is what I will produce. And then, like you said, having like a cohesive, usually like reports, for example, like having someone make it sound like it's one person because obviously you don't want to be writing a report that's like, oh, this is a different person who wrote that, right? That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Sometimes part of the hard part is getting in contact with your group mates.
Hmm.
So how do you like to do that? Like what's your
Yeah.
strategy? Do you have one?
Strategy. It depends. So if say like you get your it's assigned like your group, then like and you don't know these people, I would probably like message them on my learning space first because unless I have their contact, but usually like I don't. So I'd be like, hi, like my name's Lina, we're in this group together. Would you like to make a group chat on WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever? Like I have everything, so I'm like good with whatever, and then people will reply hopefully and then you can make a group chat or like obviously if I knew these people like maybe I'd start up the group chat myself on Messenger if I like had them as a friend or if I had their number and everyone had an iPhone, I'd make a message, iMessage group chat or something. So yeah, I would just say like the hardest part is probably reaching out. So it's usually like, I don't know if it's a cold reach out like by email, that can be tough because sometimes people don't check their emails as often, but that's how I would probably do it. Do you do anything different, Chris?
Yeah, no, like I do it the same way too. What's cool with classes being on Zoom though is you could always DM them too.
Mm,
Be like, hey, like, do you want to partner up? Or like, hey, we're in the same group. Like, can we add each other on whatever? Um, I know for me, I never use WhatsApp, but I use it for school because I know a lot of people like to use it for group chats. And in my program, there's a lot of international students, so WhatsApp just tends to work better. Um, I'm
yeah.
also like flexible for any uh platform, but then I just have to remind myself to actually check because like I
Mm,
don't check WhatsApp or Messenger that often compared
yeah.
to other things, so you have to make sure to check. Another thing I do is just like try to follow a lot of your classmates on social media if you can. Like I think on Instagram is cool, some people put like WLU in their bio, so I'm like, oh, I don't know you, but maybe I will. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow you just in case. Like there's this one girl that I followed just in OEEC, when you just meet a bunch of people in OEEC. So I followed her. Um, and then now we have a lot of the same classes together. And we're like, oh, I'll message you for this group. Oh, we follow each other on Instagram already. So that's how we came into contact. Yeah.
So basically, you're telling me networking on
Networking.
social media, basically,
Yes.
because you just know them by, sharing the same school, obviously, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I kind of know you, or like I've seen you, or like I've seen you around. I apparently I do kind of know you somewhat. So
Networking. I think we talked about that in another episode before or something.
we
Very
did.
useful.
That's really cool. I think also like if you can like I feel like this is perhaps maybe pre-pandemic, but like getting to know your group on a like outside of class level can be good. I know in first year for a big group project, they make you like go out on like a social or like for dinner with your group mates because like you want to like you don't have to like them or be friends with them, but it's sometimes nice to just kind of, know these expectations, but then get to know someone because you can perhaps work better with them if you know them. So even if it's like, I don't know, social, it really depends because some groups is like, oh, you just do one project and you're done. But like trying to just, I think even just like chat before your meeting. So like being like, how are you? And like actually like trying to like ask them how they are, and just know them as a person, I think is important, even if you're not exactly friends, because it's just, I don't know, it's respectful, and also it just will make the work better, like more pleasant.
I agree. You see them as a person rather than just a student to do one part of a project, right?
Exactly.
Um, for me right now, like while I'm at Conestoga, there's only 8 people, including myself now, in all of my classes. It's like our,
Mhm.
our Zoom classes are like 9 people. But I've been working with the same people since September. And one of them like commented on my headphones, right? While we were in class. And then when we had a meeting, we started talking about it. And then she was telling me about her daughters, how they have like the same headphones as me. And then
Oh.
she like we just started talking about family. And then after the call, she messaged me like showing me a poster that her daughter had of like Valorant, like the game that I like. So it was just so nice. It's like I was making a friend. And then we also got to do group work together. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so sweet. I think like especially when it's like we talked about making friends, right? How it's hard to like online, but like that simple gesture, like that is just like I feel like that's so nice if someone were to reach out and just share a little part of them. Like obviously it can be like even nerve-wracking. So like just the small little things like how that friend pointed out your headphones, like
Yeah.
makes a huge difference, right?
She's so sweet. And she's very smart. I like having her in my groups.
We love that. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I remember, is this the Taylor Swift quote where it was like, if you're like you want to be in the room, wait, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Something like that. But
Oh,
essentially, there's a
that's
quote,
Taylor Swift.
or maybe it's Selena Gomez. I don't actually know.
Okay.
I just saw this on Instagram, I'm pretty sure. But essentially, whoever said this, I think it's pretty wise because like you always want to be learning and striving for more, right? So you shouldn't be intimidated by surrounding yourself with other people who are smart or smarter than you, right?
Mhm.
Like you want to be surrounded by people you can learn from, but people are going to be able to learn from you as well. So it's really like, you know, if you guys choose your group, I guess like being able to surround yourself with like positive energy and
Mhm.
hopefully those who will work as hard as you want to work in that class.
Yeah, for sure. That makes me think about like what kind of leadership styles people have. Like
Mm.
when you're in a group, are usually the one who like delegates the meetings or whatever. Like that made me think of that because I remember in elementary school, there would be like that one smart kid. Everyone's like, I want you in my group so we can get a good mark. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think people work differently with each other. What kind
Mm.
of leadership styles would you say you have, Lena?
I remember like I took like one of those tests or whatever, like in first, they made us do a lot of stuff in first year business because like obviously we're working in groups a lot. I think it was like, I don't remember what it was called, but I think it was like the manager or something. But essentially that person like adapts to what needs to be done. So like say like there's a really strong dominant leader, like in that case, I will be more of like a listener and like, I don't know, maybe just like making sure everyone's okay and supporting, or but if there's no someone who isn't a leader, like I would step up to be that leader.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what that little test told me, that like I essentially just fill what needs to be done.
Mhm.
um and like I guess I'm like adaptable, I guess, in my leadership style. So
That's a good style.
what about you, Chris?
I'm kind of the same way. Like if there's no clear leader, then I'll step up. But if someone else is already doing it, I'll just follow.
Mm.
I actually did a bunch of leadership style quizzes just yesterday for one of my classes.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like you answer the questions on a scale from like 1 to 5, and then you add up your numbers. So the one I got the highest score for was democratic leadership. So almost the question is just like um, you make decisions together or you ask others for ideas and stuff like that. So I think that's how I work together in a group setting for projects and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's nice too, because like kind of like putting ideas together and just making sure everyone's heard. I think that's a very nice thing about democratic leadership, just being able to kind of put everyone's ideas together to make into one huge, big, nice thing, hopefully.
I think I'm somewhat like that too, because maybe because I lack confidence in myself sometimes. So I'm like, I have this idea, but it's okay if it's bad. Like, if you guys don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. What do you guys
You're like,
think? What are your ideas? Yeah.
For those who are listening, we just like I don't even know how to
The
describe this
finger
for
pointing, the ooh woo
yeah.
finger thing.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I get that too. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna roll with it. And then someone else has the idea, and it's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have said something.
Yeah. So I guess it's good to like ask people what they're thinking because they might be shy and not want to say it. Because I'm like that
Exactly.
sometimes. Yeah.
Judgment-free zone here.
I think part of group work is also trying to be confident in yourself and your ideas
Yeah.
because that's definitely something I need to work on. I'm like, yeah, if it my idea probably sucks, like we don't need to do it.
I think something that I've learned from Locus group work is that like it's okay to, I guess, pitch my bad ideas, quotation marks, because I feel like that's the point of the whole process, right? Like I've kind of, I guess, um, gotten used to kind of, I guess, putting myself out there with these people that I'm comfortable with and knowing that, sure, this is an idea that just popped into your mind and it's probably not good, but your friends are here to help you build on that idea or make it a better idea. So I think like with that, it's kind of helped me build my confidence of like, this is silly, but might as well just say it. And I guess I've been okay with it being my idea being rejected because I think that's life, right? You're not going to come up with the best idea at the first time. And if you do, that's okay, that's great. But I think it's the whole point of like trying and trial and error.
Mhm.
And also like other people listening to this idea because maybe you don't think it's a good idea, but maybe others can hear and like, oh, that is a good idea, but here's how we can incorporate it or just make it better. So
Sometimes it's nerve-wracking to like put out an idea when you're not entirely sure how it would even work if it's just a rough idea, but
mhm.
then you can work on it with other people. Like Lena, you message me like stream ideas or stuff like that all the time, but it's just like a passing thought. But then like the last one we talked about with the pet streams, I don't want to spoil
Spoiler.
anything just in case, I don't know, don't spoil anything too much, but you had that idea and then we talked about it and then the ball just got rolling. You're like, oh, we can do this, oh,
It
we can
really
add
did.
this. Yeah.
It really did.
So
Also, I texted Christina with no like nothing. I had nothing, no idea. Like literally, I didn't know any of the logistics. I just messaged her,
you're
and
like,
she was so sweet.
yeah, that's fun. It's fun to like play off of other people's ideas.
Exactly. Yeah, I think like learning how to, I guess, be comfortable with that, that's been really nice, you know? And I guess in academics, it can help you develop that comfortable feeling of like group work
Mhm.
and sharing those ideas. Because I know, like, for example, Locus, like it's a relaxed environment and it maybe it's more creative in that sense, whereas with schoolwork, it might not be as creative, like maybe there's certain answers that are better than others, but it's just practice, I would say. Group work takes practice.
Mhm. And even though people dread it, like it's going to happen in real life, like you mentioned before, in our careers, we're not going to be like working just alone our entire
Mhm.
career, right? You're going to
Yeah.
be working in partnerships with people, or like if you're developing an event or a program or something like that, you're not going to do that alone,
Mhm.
right? So it really does prepare you for real life, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. What would you say in terms of like group members? So like in your as yourself, like what you would want to see from others slash what you should do. Like, you know how it's like, oh, I love that group member that always reminds us about due dates or like
Mhm.
certain qualities. So like how can we be good group members essentially?
I think making sure to pull your own weight. Like if you say you're going to do something by a certain date, then try to do that. And then also, I think be understanding if it's easy to get frustrated if someone isn't pulling their own weight, you're like, come on, we said we're going to do it by this day or something like that. But I think it's also important to be mindful of what could be on someone's plate. Like maybe they work a part-time job on top of school, or they have family to take care of or something like that. So like not being mad at someone for pulling their weight, or for not pulling their weight. But yeah, making sure to do what you said you were going to do.
Mhm. I definitely agree, especially like when you're working with people who you may not know. Like, for example, you don't know that they work that part-time job, or they may be struggling with something right now that you don't know. It's just like coming from like when for example, if you were to confront that member of like, hey, like, I saw that you didn't do your part, instead of just like focusing on that, I would say like try to say, how can I help you? Or like, is there something going on? Like, can you let me know like what's happening in your life? Just kind of approaching it from an understanding perspective, or like a caring perspective, that you like care for this person and that you obviously all want to do well, because I'm sure they're not doing that just for the sake of like
Yeah.
to make you upset. Like no one would
Yeah.
ever do that. No one would ever do that. So I think just being aware of that and like not attacking the person, because I know it can definitely feel like that if you were to do that. But yeah,
What about you? Like, to answer your question, like what kind of group member are you?
I definitely, oh, am I? What kind of group
Yeah.
member am I? Oh,
Yeah.
mm, um,
Or also what you'd expect from others.
yeah, okay. For me, I would say, um, I think I'm someone who looks at the details. So like
Mm.
when we're like double checking things, or like making sure, I guess like wrapping things up, or like the editing, I'm kind of like the detailed person. Or like, oh, do we have to do this part? Like, what about this in the rubric kind of thing? Um, Whereas I guess there's other people who like will help us glue everything together and see the bigger picture. So I would say I'm that person. And um hopefully, I think I'm an organized person, so sometimes like I can organize like our calls. Or again, I think it definitely depends on the group I'm in, because um depending on how the group dynamic is, again, I said like I'll step back, or if I'll like become more of a leader depending on who's in my group. In terms of expectations, I definitely agree with you of like pulling your own weight like is nice, and I think it's expected from like, I expect myself to pull my own weight as well as my group members.
Yeah.
Um, and I think just active communication, I know like that's so big, but like communication is also like a two-way street, right? It's mutual. So like someone needs to be listening, and someone needs to be like, talking it out. And I think it's especially important to be listening in group work, because like something that like I really don't like is when, like, say you're having a group discussion and like a member like pitches their idea or whatever, and then like kind of people like shut it down, or like don't address it kind of thing. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
So just being aware of that, and like making sure that everyone kind of has their say, or is like being able to speak up. Like I really would hope that like we like, I remember like in first year, I know I keep talking about first year just because there's a huge group project that we had to do. So like all of these memories are from there, and like everything else, like the pandemic is like a blur, to be honest. But I've done a lot of group projects, which is the issue. But I remember like, just recognizing that there's this one person who didn't like speak up a lot. I remember a lot of my group members, including myself, like always asked them for their opinion, because we
Mhm.
wanted to hear their opinion. And we think that they were just shy. So, and then when they did speak, there's a bunch of great stuff. And we obviously need to agree with things as a group, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's really important, to really just listen to whatever everyone's saying, and um, at least make sure that they feel heard and seen.
Mhm. That's great. I would love to work with you in like a group. Well, we always work together, I mean, but like in a like a group project or something, I feel like yeah, it'd be really nice to work with you.
It would be nice, Chris. We already work together.
Yeah.
It's great working with Kristina,
It,
especially.
it's great working with Lena.
Oh, wow. Yay.
But yeah, I think I'm definitely very similar to you in terms of looking at the details and stuff during group work.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's good to have someone who's like orientated and then someone who looks at the bigger picture. I'm
Yeah.
usually the person who like goes over and edits the grammar, make sure the wording is
Mm.
good, and then also double checks all the citations and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I've had group members who just put the link
Oh no.
and then I'm like, well, we need to cite this. I show when I find all the information to cite it, even though it wasn't my source. But
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, in terms of group like numbers, do you prefer working in like smaller groups like pairs to like trios, or do you like bigger groups of like six to, I feel like six is kind of big, or more question mark?
Um, I think I don't think I've had a group more than 4 people.
No
Yeah,
way.
I think everything has been 4 people or like 3 or 2. Like I don't think I've had anything more than 4, so I don't know what it's like to be in a really big group. But I think 4 is a good amount.
Four is a good amount. I feel like
Yeah.
four is like the good medium.
Yeah.
Maybe even five. Five is like maybe even a lot, but I feel like four is nice because it's like I like even numbers.
What's the biggest group that you've worked in?
Mm, I think six too. For
Oh,
school, I feel like six. I'm trying to like really think. I don't think I've had eight. I feel like six was the most, or
it's
maybe
like
even
a lot.
seven. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of students. Like these, my classes were well, actually that's not. My classes were like 50 something people. So then you like split it up. I can't do math, but anyways,
Your group is
anyways,
like the size of my class.
yeah.
I think we started with 20 people at the beginning of the year. And then now there's like, yeah, like 8 people in my
But Chris,
program.
but Chris, when you think about it, Locus is a big group that you work
That's
with.
true. That's true. That is a big group. Yeah.
It can be there. There can be difficulties working in big group, right? It's
Mhm.
really hard.
Finding a time to meet.
Finding a time to meet. Oh gosh. For context, for anyone listening, like our meetings for the Locust team is 10:30 on Mondays, which
Mhm.
some people would have been, I mean, to me, that's when the party starts, right? But yeah, it is late, to be honest. It's after all the classes are done. So it's yeah. But I feel like every time we go to their meetings, I'm always energized. It's like 10:30, I'm like
Mhm.
partying.
I think it's okay that our meetings are on Zoom
Mhm.
because I can already be in my pajamas. I remember
Yes.
FYLP meetings in first year would be 10 p.m., but I'd have to
Yes.
like walk across campus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know like friends for in like house council, like they would have to bus like an hour so they'd get home super late
Oh
because our
my
meetings
God.
end at like 11, so they get home at like 12. And like I lived close by, but I still had to like walk home in like the winter, like
Yeah.
in the cold, and it was not the funnest time. But also we get to do meetings with the Brantford campus, which is 10 times even more amazing. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's like the beauty of being on Zoom because I guess when things are in person, we're gonna have in-person meetings and we won't get to
Yeah.
see the Brantford team.
Yeah. Dang. I think councils and groups like Locus and stuff also helps you a lot with your group work.
Hmm.
It's nice to have defined roles as well. Like
Yeah.
in FYLP, there's I'm blanking on the rules, but there's the president. We had community reps. I don't even remember anymore. But we have all of our execs and stuff in Locus. So it's
Mhm.
nice having like defined roles of who does what. Um, that helps with group work too, knowing who does what.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And joining a club or being a part of an organization is always the best way to kind of develop those teamwork skills outside of the classroom so that you can become a stronger team member. And then vice versa, right? Like the more group work you do, that can apply to your other clubs. So I think it's
Yeah,
really great.
I agree. Is there anything else that we've missed talking about or anything else you have to add?
I think that was everything. I think we did a pretty good
Thorough.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we always end off with our
Words of wisdom.
So we're going to end off with the words of wisdom. So if anyone's new here, we essentially just, I guess, summarize what we talked about in the podcast, or we essentially tell you what you need to know if you want to just take out one thing from this podcast. What is the most important thing? Chris, go.
Oh, I would say encourage others, be open to listening to others. Because like in the same way you'd want to be listened to, listen to others as well. I guess that's what I
Yeah,
would say. Yeah.
I love that. I think I would say be an understanding human being with OO. Because everyone is human and everyone's got something going on. So like Kristina said, listen to each other and be the group. Oh, be the group mate you want in your group.
Yes.
Period.
Snap, 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 snaps.
Snaps all around. Be that person that you would want.
That's
And
beautiful.
then you'll just, yeah.
Nice.
Well, that wraps everything up for our podcast. Make sure you follow it, subscribe, and leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at Locus Laurier to stay up to date with all of our events and podcast episodes. And we'll see you next time. So until then, stay golden. Bye, everyone.
Bye.